Hey there, and welcome back to Culturally Sound. I am here with Brian Purkiss, Digital Product Manager with One Paw. Um, Brian, lots to unpack with what you shared and where you've been and how you're going. How did you get into the digital realm and digital space, and what was sort of interesting there for you?
Well, if we go far enough back, I got into all of this because I wanted to customize my MySpace profile. And nowadays, when I tell that story, half the people are like, "Oh yeah, okay," and half of the people are like, "Huh, what?"
Right, right. Yeah, it's
But
an age demo.
yeah, I just wanted to make it look better and customize my top eight and all of that stuff. So I started learning HTML and CSS and all that basic stuff. And then it just kind of spiraled from there and turned into a career. So I did the agency rotation as a developer, building websites for a little over a decade, and transitioned into leadership, specifically in the e-commerce world, running teams and websites and making making the website do all of the stuff and sell the product better. Yeah, got to make those charts go up and to the right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those are important bars and graphs. And what what allowed you to sort of expand your knowledge into where you currently are? Did you do any formal schooling? Was it primarily self-taught? What did that look like?
Very much a lot of self-taught, lots of reading books, lots of trial and error in some jobs where I was able to make mistakes and keep trucking along. I did go to college for a little bit, ultimately dropping out when, again, I'm dating myself, but next year the professor was saying I had to take Flash because Flash was critical for
Oh
my
boy.
career, even though Adobe, the owners of Flash, said stop using Flash. My professor apparently knew more than Adobe and said it was critical. So I'm like, forget that. I'm done with this. And that was after literally ashamedly sleeping through her class and barely putting any work and still getting a 98 on my Web 101 class. So I was okay, done with that. And I just jumped on in, and that got me a few years head start on my career, and have been building websites ever since.
Hmm.
I got to kind of work my way up in seniority, working in the agency life and touching on all sorts of different tech stacks, brand types, etc. It's small business agency life.
Hmm.
You wear all the hats all the time for all of the things.
Preach. Yes.
But yeah, that eventually I got tired of the one and done nature of agency life,
Hmm.
and I wanted to get into something for a more extended period of time. So I transitioned in-house,
Hmm.
got a role as a lead web developer, which I then climbed the ladder and was able to run the website, leading a team for the
Hmm.
website. And I've been doing that ever since, running e-commerce websites and the teams that go into making the website do all of the stuff and integrate with everything, all of the integrations. My goodness.
And how what is that? How does that take shape today? Are you still the person coding, or are you working with your team and delegating and managing? What does that look
Mhm.
like for you on a day to day?
Mhm. When I started, it was very much still in the code, but as the years have gone on, I'm spending less and less and less time in the code. Um, you know, I'd probably be able to get a job as a mid-level developer, but I'm not sure if I'd be able to if I've been keeping up where I could be a senior developer anymore, and I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. I can still talk the talk and have reasonable conversations, and I've got this knack for asking the right questions so we can work through the
Hmm.
challenges on a very technical level,
Hmm.
even if I'm not writing the code myself.
Hmm.
So I still enjoy that, and that helps me stay a little unique in this world where I'm technical enough that I can drive the very specific execution, but I've been doing it long enough and I've seen a wide enough range of websites, tech stacks, brands, marketing, industries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that I can talk across all the teams and drive the overall product strategy for the e-commerce brand, so we can sell the product and make the shirts go up and to the right.
Right.
So it's an interesting balance of getting very specific into certain areas of the role, but also still being broad enough that I can talk with everyone across the company and have, at least what I tell myself, is reasonably intelligent conversations.
And what does that look like for your team? So you're going into those meetings, you're having those conversations, you're bringing it back to your team, and you're breaking that apart and assigning particular aspects, or do you work with your team and set out how they want to tackle the project? What does that look like?
So there's sometimes where it's very much giving them the idea, because it's a team with a leader that's managed, you got to manage towards other teams where you don't, you don't have the authority to assign the tasks, but you want to help each other out. So it's giving ideas and supporting and giving them information and direction, and then letting their team run with it. But when it comes to within my team, I love the ownership, the whole Jocko Leafs extreme ownership deal. And so I love to try and set things up where the team can own and participate and be involved. I don't have the time, energy, or care to micromanage. What I want to do is I want to empower them so they can, have an impact on the business. I've just seen it time and time again, where the more that they are able to own their areas, that's within their scope of skill and responsibility, and within their title and all of that type of stuff, and give them the direction. So set the long-term vision. I usually come in with somewhat of a specific, sometimes it's very specific, sometimes it's a little more loosely specific of ideas on execution, but I try not to be too specific on the exact details of it. They're subject matter experts. I hired them. I've not fired them. We've kept them around. So I want them to use them for their expertise. Like I said a moment ago, I have a broad range of experience and also a lot of specialization, and I've got some good accomplishments under my belt. I'm not completely incompetent, but I'm also not all knowing, all powerful. So, why would I try to be the dictator when instead I can use the diverse set of skills, experiences, and opinions of the team, so we can all work together? One of the things that I absolutely love to say is, I have good ideas, people on my team have good ideas, and usually in of themselves, all they ever are is good ideas. But it's when we work together and merge them together is when they ultimately become great ideas, especially since they're not always good ideas. Sometimes I come up with a bad idea, but my team is like, maybe that's not good for these reasons. Let's tweak it, change it. And then we're able to morph and iterate and turn it into a good or great idea. It has a pretty darn good success rate, and requires you to be humble and listen and interact with the team and give them a safe space to be able to contribute their own ideas. And sometimes those ideas don't work out, but most of the time they do when we work together. It's great. It's a lot of fun.
Any good examples of how that approach applied in a successful way to sort of a surprise and delight of the end result?
Yeah. So it's the first e-commerce company that I had gone in-house in, towards the end of my time there, my team and I had been working together for a while. So I had developed a lot of trust in them, and we had gotten really, really interconnected, really supportive. We each had kind of different areas of focus in our different skill sets, but with heavy overlap. There was it was related to discounting. And see, this is interesting because I remember a lot of specifics about this meeting, this conversation that we had, but I've forgotten the exact challenge that we were trying to overcome.
Okay.
What I do remember is we had been talking about it and we had been dancing around it, and finally it was like, okay, we need to solve this. And it was very, it was across all of our different areas of expertise with all of the different systems that needed to talk together. Again, I think it was something relating to generating some automated discounts. Automation was in there and discounts were in there.
Okay.
Whatever. We'll call it automated discounts. And I'd spent some time thinking on it, banging my head against the wall, and I couldn't come up with a solution. So I'm like, you know what? Let's go. We sit down in a meeting room and let's figure this out. And I went into this with the personal challenge of not contributing to the discussion. All I did was ask questions and capture specific suggestions and ideas. So it's like, hey, this is an outline of what we're trying to do, which we all knew because we've been working on it, but it was a redefining of this is the scope and this is the end state of what we are trying to accomplish. How do we get there? And then the team just kind of went back and forth. And I was a little bit of a referee. It's like, okay, well, Liz, she had this idea with that part of it. That seems like we're working in the right direction. How do we use that? Oh, okay, Spencer pulls this in. Oh, Jeff pulls this in. And then it was just this back and forth. And again, I very specifically did not contribute to the conversation. I only asked questions and captured, the specific nuggets of what they did. And then we pulled it together. And we're at the end of this meeting. I'm like, is that it? It was better than any. It was a better solution than we thought we could have ever come up with because we were trying to work through it. We just couldn't. And then we all worked together through it. And that again came through. We all trusted each other and we knew each other areas of expertise. And we had a good open back and forth communication where we all let each other contribute. Sometimes there's a little bit of a refereeing needed, but for the most part, it was this very collaborative, supportive environment. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the end result was fantastic. And I don't even remember what it was. I just remember that conversation. I was sitting here, Liz was sitting there, Jeff was sitting next to me, and Spencer was sitting across from me. I have a very specific memory of that that entire thing, but don't remember what it was about.
Yeah. Yeah. And what a testament to, you don't remember what is said, but you remember how it makes you feel. Right. And I mean, that's pretty wild. What gave you what inspired the concept of just sitting back and listening? Because most leaders, they want to jump in and they want to, steer the ship and sort of guide the discussion and the rest. Sorry. Mm-hmm. They want to steer the direction of the conversation, whereas you just sort of sat back and guided it. You use the term referee, but I mean, perhaps, that was just sort of a way of guiding that conversations per se. And, the fact that they were so passionate about the concept and the ideas speaks volumes about the commitment and the engagement that was clearly anchoring that team. What inspired that idea or that leadership technique?
Well, it was partly an experiment. I had been that role was my first step into call it the responsibilities of leadership. As you're working through your direct contributor position, you have, the whole thing of everybody's a leader. It's like, well, yes, but also no, because when you get into a more quote unquote official leadership role, you have the authority and the responsibility of things going right, things going wrong, more importantly, things going wrong. Blame gets pointed on you. You mess up bad enough and, people's jobs are at risks and stuff like that. And so with that, I had been spending a lot of time reading a lot of different books on communication. I was going through an overhaul of my own personal communication style. Before that, I was proud of being I called it a blunt person. And I can tell you already know what I'm saying there from that reaction, but I was like, I'm to the point. I'm blunt. We're solving things.
Yeah.
Like, this is, but it was more, hubris, arrogance, and no tact. You can still be a blunt person. You can have tact, and you can still be a focused person and still have humility. And I was missing some of those things for a large portion of my career, and unfortunately burned some bridges along the way because of it. And at that company, I bumped some heads and almost burned bridges, but thankfully I was given the opportunity to continue to grow and iterate, and work on that communication style. Made a lot of progress during that time, and was then also, like I said, focusing on leadership through all of that communication, reading lots of books and intentionally trying to experiment how I interact with people and try different things, get feedback. It was a big, big learning and growth phase for me. And this was a continuation of that. I was starting to write a lot. Personally, I'm a big journaler, note taker. I write lots of notes. I've got my second brain in Obsidian is literally approaching 1 million words, with all of the stuff that I've accumulated over the years. And I've got tens of thousands of notes written on productivity, communication, leadership, et cetera, et cetera. And so I was losing my train of thought here a little bit, but I was experimenting and I was working through positivity. That's where I was going with that. Building out a lot of these ideas and trying to lead into it and understand it and incorporate it more. I've always been a fairly optimistic person, but now I was actually going at it with a structured, intentional approach. The leadership, communication, positivity, and long zigzagging back and forth. But ultimately, that's what led me to this. Is I wanted to have this experiment of a conversation, where I just threw it at my team and let them tackle it, and completely step back, and not let my ego be the one having to, I got to do it because I'm the best, I'm the leader, I'm the whatever, it's like, I wanted to intentionally remove myself from that and practice some of my communication and leadership skills. And that meeting, at least 5 years ago, has to be, it still sticks with me, that much to this day.
Right. And was there an inflection point? Was there a moment that you can point to that you felt, I need to change, or I need to take a different tact, or I need to self-reflect? What was there a moment that you can point to, or a series of events that led to that change, to go from a blunt communicator, as you put it, to how you sort of manage things today?
I don't know if there was a single event. I think it was more a series of buildups over the course of a few different positions where, I butt heads with people, and things didn't go well, and I jeopardized my job a few times in my just not because I was not capable of completing tasks, but because I wasn't working well with others. But there were some people that I would get along with very well, and some people that I wouldn't get along with. I can't control their actions. I can only control my actions. And I wasn't, taking responsibility for mine. And so it was kind of, I do remember at my time there at that company, I don't even remember the incident, but there was another butting of head, and having kind of this, like, this keeps on happening. This is now the third company where there's been it wasn't even like a significant enough like there's write-ups or disciplinary or anything like that, but it was still a significant enough bumping of heads that it stands out to me. and just kind of being like, something's not right. Something's not working this.
Mhm.
And so I need to do something different. And I went and finally got around to reading How to Win Friends and Influence People,
Excellent book.
which is, yeah, so it's so good. And I know there's some people that make fun of it for being, so simple and so common sense or whatever. It's like, yes, it is, but also sometimes not. Like, it's one of those things where when I read through it, there was never anything that was like, oh, I never thought about that before. Of
Right.
course, it's ever kind of like, yeah, it's like, but it was the way everything was phrased and positioned that finally got it through my head that I can still be I don't like using the term blunt anymore, but
Sure,
I
sure.
can still be a focused and topically driven person, but still maintain tact. I can still, be, kill that ego. I can still work with people and all of that. And so I started experimenting and implementing stuff from that. The single thing, if I have to put one thing from that book, it's the find the point of shared agreement. That has been the thing that stuck with me the most.
Mhm.
And you can diffuse so many conversations just being like, hold on, where do we agree?
Yes.
Oh, turns out we agree on 90% of it.
Yes.
And then the final 10% is a piece of cake, especially in the business world. We're trying to solve this. We're working for the same company, trying to sell the same product, try to complete the same project.
Mhm.
It's very rare that you have a complete, opinion on how to do something. There's almost always overlap. So yeah, the book helped me kind of start implementing tactics and adjusting my mindset, and then helping me kind of turn it around. So, so yeah, I mean, I don't think it was a single event. I guess it was kind of like an event that made me realize, like, oh, those past times didn't have to be that way, and let's figure out how to do this differently.
Mhm. Yeah, and I find that in today's society where there's just so much division and so much, and it's so passionate, and it almost, so much of it becomes personal. The willingness to agree on the things that we do agree upon and finding a path forward to the goals that we wish to achieve, and then leaving the rest behind so that, because don't sweat the small stuff, right? Just, you know, don't put those rocks in your backpack and carry them down the path that you're carving. Leave them on the ground for other people to step, to sort of pave the path, right? And it's kind of it's an eye-opening moment. You speak to how to win friends and influence people, and suggesting that, all of it is sort of common sense. It's how all of those lessons and learnings are applied with consistency, right? And weaving them together into a tangible fabric that then you can use to blanket your way and sort of take steps forward. So kind of you've pointed to two foundational books that I've read, Extreme Ownership and How to Win Friends and Influence People. Any, you mentioned that there was a number of books that you were sort of reading and looking to build upon. Are there any others that sort of stick out that you lean to or point to frequently these days?
I wish I was at my other desk. I've got a row of books up there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Peak Performance is a good one.
Yeah.
That one, I don't remember the author, talks a lot about how do you pursue things and accomplish tasks
Mhm.
to the best of your abilities. I like Ryan Holiday's work. With his more modern takes on stoicism.
Mhm.
Ego is the enemy. Uh, right thing right now. It's not quite right. Something like that. And those are some of the big ones.
Yeah. And the principles that you're sort of taking out and
Mhm.
applying, how how is the team perceiving it and adopting it? Are they participating in consuming that information, or do you just try to pull the bits and pieces and apply them and see what works? Like, are you still testing and experimenting? What does that look like today?
Yeah, definitely always still testing and experimenting. No one's ever complete. Everyone's always trying to grow and improve, and I'm
Right.
always trying to do that. And so I've been doing a lot more time, got over the past month doing a lot more focused reading. And
Mm.
so I'm taking a lot of my notes and my unstructured and my, spaghetti web of all of this content and everything, and turning it into very concrete takeaways,
Mhm.
which is helping me process it, internalize it, better articulate it, and ultimately, hopefully, better live it out.
Mhm.
Um, I've definitely made book recommendations, and and done what I can to try and positively influence my team. I think a lot of it is just kind of through being an example, and kind of guiding. Here's how we interact with each other, and stopping thing. Easy example that happened not too long ago
Perfect.
is someone who was struggling with a task that had been assigned to them,
Mhm.
and this person just was like, I can't do this. I can't do that. And this person was very stressed and struggling with the situation. And I rather firmly came in and said, stop saying that you can't do this, because you have done project A, project B, project C. You've excelled at these things. You have been doing a phenomenal job since you stepped into this role. You have proven that you are capable of doing these types of tasks. You are capable of doing this one too. So now let's stop. And we did a little impromptu gap analysis of, what are we trying to accomplish? And let's kind of fill in the gaps of where we're at and where we're trying to go,
Mhm.
and broke it down into concrete steps. And she knocked it out in like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it was, it was a piece of cake, in the end. So sometimes I try and get in a little bit more, it has to get in a little bit more specific. One of the things that previous boss kind of started, and then I've just continued on, is at the beginning of our weekly meeting. Not every week, but maybe 90% of the time, I pull in some sort of quote business communication, productivity, positivity, the occasional joke, just kind of whatever thing, and then use that as an opportunity to give an impromptu uh, one that's five. Sometimes I might get a little rambling and might go beyond 5 minutes of like a little impromptu. This is an important thing, and this is how we're going to operate. And so,
Mhm.
my current role, as I've been getting higher in leadership, this has been giving me a little bit of a platform to maybe get a little preachy, but hopefully I think it's being received well, and kind of share some of these lessons and these ideas, and get the team all on board. Sometimes it's very business, it's full business. This is what we as the business will be do to accomplish that KPI and that stuff. And sometimes it's much more aspirational, of how we you know be positive and perceive life.
Mhm.
So that's been fun and interesting. Ultimately, I am trying to take some of my notes and my writings and start publishing. I've taken a stab at it before. It kind of fizzled. I was a little early in some of my explorations and using it on it all. Now I've got a few more years of compiling notes and thinking and experimenting, and so I'm getting back to it. I want to try and share some of these ideas. I've gotten good feedback when I've talked about them, and it's fun. I enjoy diving into all of this. I think I spent an hour this morning digging through. I was literally digging through some research papers on leadership and whatnot,
Mhm.
as I'm trying to compile these notes and turn them into something.
What are you seeing sort of rising to the top in those sort of current leadership applications? Are you seeing anything that's exciting for you? Is it all sort of the same old stuff, or is there a nugget there that kind of made you smile?
So one of the things that I'm seeing is there's so much similarity between a lot of these different ideas. And a lot of them are just kind of phrasing things differently and, uh, approaching it differently, emphasizing this, that, or the other. Some are more detailed. Some are a little bit more, bite-sized, trying to be a little bit more easy to understand.
Mhm.
I'm going to be going a little bit more detailed, a little bit more thorough. But it's interesting to see look at a research paper and it talks about the importance of positivity and uplifting and supporting each other and how much that helps. And the it almost gets a little frustrating though at times because I'm seeing so much consistency on the importance of genuinely helping each other out and supporting each other, both
Yes.
in my own personal experience and the impact that it has on a team, and how much it helps, how much other third party bodies of research, writings from people who are been doing this longer than I have, supporting all of these things. And it's like how to win friends and influence people, where it's like, yeah, we need to get in shared agreement before we move on. Oh yeah, of course. Now we disagree with here, like it's
Yeah.
all of these things where in conversation people would agree with. I don't think there's anybody who would disagree with the idea of we need to support our team to help them do their job better, but then they'll immediately turn around and backstab, cutthroat, and all of these types of things.
Mhm.
It's a weird paradox of just people not living what they preach,
Mhm.
and just the just the actions of people not lining up with how everybody says we should be interacting with each other.
So, I mean, there's all sorts of crazy stats that are coming out. Scott Galloway is really trying to galvanize around the rehabilitation of young men, maybe, in you know getting away from this alpha male model, with which is attack and dominate, and um, be sort of the strong, courageous, never flinch type of individual, as opposed to um, the nurturing, caring, considerate, compassionate, trustworthy individual that is looking to get sort of restructured. Some of the numbers that he's recently thrown across is young men, so 16 to maybe 26 or 28, are getting together with their friends 50% less than they would in the 70s. So that community, that association, and I mean, the white male, don't really want to get too deep into this rabbit hole because it gets thick pretty quick. But it's not that they're victims, but there needs to be a restabilization of their confidence and their ability and their awareness and all of the rest that comes along with it. Are you seeing any of that sussing out in the research of leadership and management and um, you know the integrity? There seems to be a really high appetite for apathy and hypocrisy. How do we quell that, roll that back, and bring integrity, trust, honesty, humility, compassion, consideration, bring all of those values and instill them back into a management, a leadership? Like you said, they say one thing, but they do something completely another when they get the opportunity for self-advancement. Does any of that, I mean, I touched on a lot there. So
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I very much get what you're saying. There's lots of people in all sorts of demographics that are just feeling more and more isolated, and we can point to a million and one reasons
Right, right.
from doom scrolling to just being literally physically not with people as much. You know, the downsides of the internet and cyberbullying and peer pressure, and we're watching depression rates go up. People are unable to focus. I think that the average focus time for youth is, oh, what was it? It's not even in the teens of seconds. It's terrifying to the
Right.
point where it's like the next generation. If you can say I can focus on something for more than 5 minutes, that's a resume worthy item. Um, it's
How terrifying.
um, I know, right? Um, I'm reading that college students and graduate students are struggling to read an entire book for their degree.
Mm,
And this is not just, some 5-year-old who got an iPad for too much of their day. These
right.
are people that are pursuing degrees,
Mhm,
and focusing for the entirety of a book
mhm.
is proving to be a challenge.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
Um, Okay. I mean, since we'll try and rein it back in, otherwise we'll be here for the next 5 hours, to bring it back into leadership, and a lot of this stuff is really going to be heavily influenced by someone who's in a position of power, and we'll just call it a typical business leader, person whose job has a team.
Mhm,
Um, Someone who's in that position of leadership has, I mentioned earlier, this immense responsibility. A bad leader can seriously damage a company and cause people to lose their jobs. Even if people keep their jobs, a bad leader can send people down dark paths and drive people to alcoholism, or losing the ability to trust and interact with other people. These responsibilities of leadership is, I don't know how much, if I've really seen that emphasized much. I
mm,
want to be the boss because I'm the boss now. Nobody can tell me what to do, and I can tell other people what to do. It's like, but okay, you can tell people what to do, but you're acknowledging the problems of a bad boss, and I'm using the word boss specifically, not leader here, a bad boss having the negative impact on you. So you want to be the boss so you can tell other people what to do. That's a cycle. That's not good.
mhm.
When you're in this position of power, um, you have to use it for good. You have to use it for the betterment of other people, which ultimately betters you. The more I can make my team do a better job, the more we're going to accomplish projects, grow the business, and the more that is going to help me grow in advance as a person, career, salary, whatever, all of these different things.
Mhm,
Things.
mhm.
And being a leader doesn't have to be a zero sum game. And being a team member isn't a zero sum game. The more we can grow and support each other and help each other out, um, and a good practical example right now, AI, in case y'all haven't heard of it, is taking the internet by storm. And so we have a Slack channel, and we are putting this huge, huge, huge emphasis on trying to be fast and push hard with AI. So this Slack channel is where we're sharing notes, ideas, prompts, articles, things that we've tried that didn't work, things that we tried that did work. And we're creating this, a realm of safety where it's okay for the experiment to not go well. It's such a fast, AI image generation. An
Mm,
easy example is making so much progress. We've tried it 4 or 5 times, and we're only just now getting some results that are actually looking reasonable that we can, use in a realistic and ethical manner, to promote our products.
mhm, mhm.
And in a culture where I'm not even going to call it failure, but um, we'll call it projects that don't go as we would prefer. where that can be punished, where, hey, that didn't go well, bad, whatever. Nobody's going to experiment and try and push the boundaries with this, cutting edge, ever changing technology.
Yep.
So we're fostering this. It's okay if it didn't go well, because we get to learn what did or didn't work, what's ready and what's not ready, and we'll try again in the near future.
Hmm.
And so then, as a leader, I'm having to create this culture of safety, encouraging experimentation, but I'm also having to set boundaries, because if we did nothing but experiment with AI, nothing would get done, and the company would stagnate in the meantime.
Right.
So I'm having to create some boundaries on, these are the projects that we have to do that need to succeed. Here's some extra time for you to experiment. Here's a project that is intentionally an experiment to see what you can do at generating a landing page, things along those lines.
Interesting.
So these issues that we were talking about earlier. The leaders have a massive ability and responsibility to positively or negatively, but positively impact the lives of the people on their team. A
Hmm.
bad leader can corrupt and poison an entire company much more easily than a good leader can uplift and help a good company grow. So we have to, leaders need to have some of that network and that community and that support amongst each other. You mentioned earlier that being a leader can be a lonely, challenging, stressful thing. So leaders need to support each other and help each other. And, if I'm making this push for AI, and, one of my other managers that, runs one of his teams, if he's now, slamming his team for, not doing a good job with AI, that'll spill over amongst the scuttlebutt, of the team, and they'll be less likely. So we have to work and support each other. But you just gotta have this constructive mindset of helping each other, just for the sake of helping them grow and advance,
Hmm.
especially in these structured official leadership title positions. That should be your job. That's a large portion of your job, is to help the team do their job better.
Right.
But people just can't look beyond themselves, even when they get that leader title.
Yeah. I mean, the it's it's surprising that we're at this point and we still don't recognize that leadership, good leadership, is evident in a highly functioning and productive team, not in an individual. And the moment that companies start realizing that that's what should be getting recognized and rewarded, and the rest, you know, and asking the right questions around what that looks like, that's when, you see profound results. And, no one likes the term synergy anymore, but that synergy creates a unit that is more valuable than the sum of its parts, right? So it's finding a way to enrich and grow and incubate that type of culture that allows those types of things to sort of come together. The tech space is a little bit different, just in the person that traditionally gets into tech is typically um, you know, not as apt to go into social spaces as willingly as someone that maybe is from sales or marketing, right? It's typically people that are highly intellectual, highly cerebral, and they're not as interested in other people's influence, input, or the like. That's been my experience. Welcome to be, get pushback from you on that perspective. What what excites you about tomorrow? And, you know, obviously we can't have a conversation around tech without touching on AI, or even having that as a core component. But I mean, you know, you look at ChatGPT 5 coming out, and the um sort of the broad impression of its failure. with OpenAI, the one of the most interesting comments that I've seen is, why didn't you chat with ChatGPT 4 to come up with a marketing plan that would have been more successful? But I mean, hey, what excites you the most about, what tomorrow holds for AI tech leadership? What does that look like to you?
Well, right now, what I am using AI the most successfully for is processing lots of unstructured data.
Mm.
Um, there's a lot of things that are fun and interesting and flashy, but they have a substantially high failure rate. And the idea of agentic AI stuff, people are pushing on it and experimenting with it, but AI just still has too high of a failure rate
Mhm.
to for in to give AI just the ability to just run and do stuff.
Yep.
Um, it's just not going to work. The AI has no repercussions for being wrong, and it is actually incentivized to be wrong because AI can't just say, I don't know, I can't do that.
Mhm.
It's going to come up with something for the
Right.
sake of coming up with something. Um, I tried some vibe coding stuff, and I, had a pretty good prompt or overview of what I was trying to do,
Mhm.
implement this service with that, do these things. And, I was even getting into some of the tech of use this type of structure and stuff like that. And it was telling me to just run npm brand name and then integrate with that. That npm did not exist.
Yeah.
AI was incentivized to provide an answer and had zero repercussions for being wrong, to
Right.
the point where the entire core of what I needed it to do, it just said,
Mhm.
just install an npm that doesn't exist. And so that's where a lot of the AI stuff is going to be held back unless there can be some sort of repercussions learning or something along those lines, where AI is incentivized to be right. But even then, it can't know when it's right because it thinks it's right.
Right.
Even if you say that NPM does not exist, use only real NPMs, and then 3 iterations later, again, it brings back the exact same NPM. So gosh, it's wild because there's so much that we are doing faster, better, and newer, and all of these things. But at the same time, it's so amazingly good and amazingly awful at the same time. Anyway, so this is why I'm not excited about a lot of that other stuff, because there's still some really, really big jumps that have no signs of being that I've seen have being solved.
Mhm.
Until we can get past accountability, authority, responsibility, autonomy, any of that type of stuff,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
actual intelligence. The intelligence is missing of the artificial with the artificial. So that's why I like this back and forth processing, um, where I will work through dilemmas, and I'm using it as a sounding board.
Yeah.
I was talking about a lot of my writings, and I've been doing a much faster job of sorting through everything and working through my thought process. I'll ask questions, broad scope questions, get the perception of the internet, um, and then supplement it with, well, this is what I think is important. And here's, gobs and gobs of notes of things that I already have on
Mhm.
this topic. Now help me work through this area and come up with something that's relatable. And I don't like a back and forth, I'll ask, what does the internet think about this? And I can have a blind spot to something where I can think some terminology is very, you know, all of my friends talk about it, but nobody else does. I mean, so it was being a very good sounding board, processing, a way to process data, information, and get feedback. I've used it in a market, and in that exact same vein, but to go from personal to professional, from market research.
Mhm.
Ask, what does Reddit and Quora think about such and such? you
Right.
can get some really good insights there.
If if you were to describe yourself in 3 words, what three would you use?
Um, I'm gonna go with obsessively positive. That was a word that I used for myself for a while, or not used for myself for a while. Used it as a kind of a mantra of what I was striving to be.
Mhm.
And I've been talking with positivity a lot of people, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from these discussions about people saying that I'm one of the most positive, optimistic, what type of people that they know. So I'm striving to live that, and it seems like I'm doing it to some level of success, and that's where a lot of these writings and things that I'm trying to work through and get into a cohesive and understandable. Like I said, I got 10,000, tens of thousands of words of notes, and so when I say obsessively positive, I know exactly what I'm trying to mean, and so now
Mm.
I'm working on adapting these sayings of mine, and changing what they say, sorting through and figuring out supplementary info to try and convey it and get people on the same page. It's been a fun trial and error process.
And um, do you have a guiding quote or a mantra or anything of that nature that you sort of use to guide or?
Mhm. Well, right now I'm working on. I've got a little band on my watch here. It says singular focus.
Okay.
That one is something that I've been trying to we're talking about attention spans, and so I'm
Right.
really that one's a little bit more narrow and a little bit more focused. Last year, my big focus was um, uh, structure, or I'm sorry, discipline, consistency, structure.
Mm.
I have to have the discipline to do the right thing at the right time. I need to work at it consistently. And then if I pursue it with an intentional structure, not just haphazardly,
Mm.
then I can create output. So if I choose choose to work on the right thing and I do it consistently, I'll make some progress. And the more structure I can put behind it, the more multiplicative that output will be. So
Mhm.
I've been trying to apply that to different areas of my life and be as consistent in how I live and what I do from day to day in order to try and change something about myself, accomplish a goal, do something, whatever it is, even if it's just something as simple as setting a new PR in the gym.
Good for you. And I mean, both it's absolutely appropriate for what you're sort of steering towards. What do you think is, or what is the one thing that you're most afraid of, and why? And that can be personal or professional. Depends on how vulnerable you want to be, I suppose.
The first thing that came to my mind was blind spots.
Okay.
Um, I've the bluntness is from earlier is such a perfect example of my ego was making me blind to the impact of what it was, and I thought I was right. And it's like, but see, one of the points that I had is I had caused friction between a particular coworker, and so then I was writing code a certain way, and I was right. Like the W3 standards was this is the proper official way to write code this way.
Mm.
But then she didn't write code that way. So then I was like, no, it needs to be this. And it turned into this thing and all of this stuff. And you're right. And so I was just blind to these problems that I had. Um, and and it took me a while to fix it. It took me a while to recognize the issue. And so What's the thing that I'm currently not aware of right now that is a problem in my life that is negatively impacting how I'm interacting with others, that's prohibiting me from growing and improving, being a better husband, being a better leader, all of those types of things.
Hmm.
It can be so difficult to silence the ego, to take that constructive criticism, to figure out whatever that is. And that's just the starting point. Then you need to go and, modify learn what you should do differently and modify it and build a new habit of what's different. It's a process that can take years, discipline, consistency, structure.
Hmm. Hmm. And, stay focused. What, what does success look like to you?
Hmm. Um, a comfortable, happy lifestyle. I have good relationships with the important people in my life that I'm able to positively impact them. I'm able to grow and improve myself. I love to conquer challenges, and like I set PR in the gym, like I mentioned, is something that push through the difficult thing to accomplish it. And so I need that outlet of accomplishing a challenge, overcoming a challenge,
Hmm.
and have a just a nice, happy, peaceful life with my wife and the people that I interact with through church, work, friends, hobbies, etc.
Hmm. So just a freedom per se.
Yeah, you know that's a reasonable summation of it.
What are you a Marvel DC guy? Do you have a superhero, or do you have just someone that you admire or model or look up to? What does that look like?
I'm a Captain America guy.
Perfect.
I've got a pretty darn good captain costume from his World War II setup.
Nice.
Even got some World War II military surplus stuff to complete it. I got the shield, the helmet,
Right on.
and all that. So yeah, Captain.
Pretty firm on that one. That's awesome. Brian, thank you so much for your time, your generosity, your ideas and thoughts and concepts. I deeply appreciate what you've shared with us today. Any closing thoughts? Anything that that I failed to ask about, or that you wanted to share?
Hmm. I'll go back to what I said earlier that I really liked, and I'm going to be making some notes on this after the call.
Hmm.
Working with others that isn't a zero sum game. You don't have to prioritize yourself in order to get ahead. And in fact, the majority of the time, you personally will get ahead better in life if you support each other and help each other out and build that trust, that cohesiveness, that team. Doesn't matter if you have some sort of manager, director in your title or not, but the more you can love and support each other, give each other grace, and all of that type of stuff, just the better everything will be for everyone involved.
Hmm. Hmm. The I always like to point to leading regardless of authority, and the ability to sort of rising tide lifts all ships. Those types of
Oh yeah,
thoughts, analogies, right? Uh, Again, thank you so much. I deeply appreciate your time. I'll be sure to share ways for our audience to get in touch if they have any questions or thoughts, or want to connect with you. I think you've shared your LinkedIn profile, so we'll make sure to include that in the show notes. And thank you again.
thanks. It was a fun chat.